Welcome to our comprehensive, in-depth analysis on the latest dramatic political showdown unfolding on Capitol Hill. Tonight, we dissect the Senate Democrats' decision to block a Republican-backed continuing resolution for government funding. Stay with us as we explore the mounting crisis, analyze political strategies, and examine the implications of a shutdown. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer announced Democrats will block the Republican-backed continuing resolution in the Senate today. This decisive move threatens a potential government shutdown, as current funding expires imminently this Friday. Schumer emphasized that supporting a funding bill, cutting essential services, and neglecting Americans is unacceptable. Republican officials argue that the continuing resolution maintains stability while Democrats insist on a more equitable spending plan. Lawmakers remain divided over budget priorities, intensifying the already heated fiscal debates on Capitol Hill. The impending Friday deadline casts a shadow over the legislative process amid mounting partisan disagreements. Analysts predict that without compromise, a shutdown could disrupt millions of Americans' daily lives significantly. Earlier this week, the House narrowly passed the continuing resolution with a close 217-213 vote. The bill extends government funding until the end of September while implementing targeted spending cuts and increases. Provisions include significantly reduced non-defense spending, enhanced defense allocations, and stricter immigration enforcement funding measures. Democrats criticize the bill as overly partisan, arguing it sidesteps essential funding priorities for vital public services. They claim the proposal undermines bipartisan efforts and fails to address critical social and economic challenges. House lawmakers view the bill as a necessary measure to ensure government continuity amid fiscal uncertainties. The legislative debate intensifies as both parties clash over spending priorities and long-term policy directions. Lawmakers on both sides brace for intense negotiations to avoid prolonged governmental disruption and severe economic fallout. Senator Schumer asserted that supporting a funding bill cutting essential services and neglecting Americans is unacceptable. He emphasized that the current proposal reflects a partisan agenda rather than a balanced approach to fiscal responsibility. In contrast, Senate Democrats advocate a brief one-month funding extension for further, more comprehensive spending talks. This alternative aims to provide additional time for bipartisan dialogue and to address crucial budgetary concerns. Democrats argue that a rushed resolution could jeopardize essential programs and widen political divides further. A potential government shutdown would force the closure of non-essential services, impacting millions of citizens nationwide. Federal employees could face furloughs, while crucial public services might be disrupted during an extended shutdown. Essential operations, including national security and air traffic control, would continue to function without interruption. The disruption could affect economic stability, public safety, and the daily routines of countless Americans. Critics warn that prolonged shutdowns historically lead to significant layoffs and bureaucratic gridlocks across agencies. Economic forecasts suggest that extended closures could trigger adverse effects on market confidence and consumer spending. A recent podcast discussion highlighted fears of widespread layoffs if the shutdown endures beyond 30 days. Experts on the program warned that prolonged inaction might plunge federal workers into uncharted legal territory. Political analysts argue that these shutdown risks expose deep fractures within America's political and bureaucratic systems. They emphasize that resolving these conflicts requires unprecedented collaboration across party lines and government branches. Recent commentary noted that the shutdown could serve as a catalyst for future fiscal reforms in Washington. Critics suggest that dangerous political brinkmanship may fundamentally redefine legislative negotiations and reshape government spending priorities. Political stakes have soared dramatically as factional disagreements intensify over the contentious government funding debate. Reports indicate influential figures, including tech magnate Elon Musk, are fueling calls for sweeping governmental reform. Musk reportedly supports a shutdown, believing it may streamline bureaucratic operations and reduce excessive government waste. Critics argue that leveraging a shutdown for reforms risks exacerbating political polarization and legislative dysfunction. Supporters claim such drastic measures could break entrenched partisan gridlock and inspire future bipartisan initiatives. The debate reflects a broader ideological clash over government size, spending priorities, and fiscal oversight roles. Observers note that this contentious moment could set a lasting precedent for future political confrontations in Washington. This crisis marks the latest chapter in a series of protracted budget battles on Capitol Hill. In December 2024, a bipartisan funding effort collapsed amid fierce opposition and controversial public statements. Tech industry pressures, led by figures like Musk, forced lawmakers to rework the spending proposal drastically. The resulting plan included significant cuts and reallocation measures, reshaping the debate on federal spending. Historical shutdowns have left lasting impacts on government operations and public trust in fiscal management. These past experiences influence current strategies as both parties strive to avoid repeating former mistakes. Legislators now confront not only budgetary challenges, but also the task of restoring public confidence. As the impending Friday deadline looms, all eyes remain fixed on the Senate's critical deliberations. Republican senators must secure a 60-vote supermajority, ensuring bipartisan support for the funding resolution to pass. However, notable internal divisions emerge as at least one key Republican senator opposes the current proposal. The impasse has left Capitol Hill gripped by uncertainty and anticipation of disruptive legislative fallout. Senator John Thune urged colleagues to find common ground and avert a government shutdown at all costs. He stressed that responsible governance requires bipartisan cooperation to sustain essential government functions during crises. The unfolding crisis has broader political implications beyond immediate fiscal concerns and temporary funding gaps. Seasoned observers note that this impasse vividly reflects deep-rooted ideological conflicts within Washington's political landscape. Legislators now face mounting pressure from frustrated constituents, demanding an immediate, swift resolution and complete accountability. The current political standoff could fundamentally redefine future budget negotiations and reshape governance across federal institutions. Scholars predict that these events may trigger significant policy reforms and realign political power structures. Both parties are likely to adjust their strategies in response to the heightened political volatility we witness today. Future budget negotiations may incorporate valuable lessons learned from this unprecedented crisis to improve legislative decision-making. The final outcome will likely influence voter perceptions and significantly affect upcoming electoral dynamics nationwide. Political reform advocates argue that this is a pivotal moment for reshaping Washington's legislative agenda. As our in-depth report concludes, we reflect on the high stakes and uncertainty dominating Capitol Hill. The political drama continues, and our analysis remains committed to tracking every twist and turn closely. Thank you for joining this detailed exploration. We now sign off, hopeful for constructive resolution ahead. Senior political analysts assert that this impasse symbolizes a crisis of leadership and failure in bipartisan compromise. Experts highlight that repeated shutdown threats undermine global confidence in America's fiscal management and political stability. Seasoned political commentators emphasize the urgent need for a complete strategic overhaul in legislative negotiation techniques. Multiple experts warn that the prolonged standoff could set a dangerous precedent for future government funding battles. Analysts suggest that rapid policy adjustments might be necessary to navigate the turbulent political landscape ahead. Experienced political strategists forecast that upcoming negotiations will undoubtedly be more contentious and politically charged. The media and the public are closely scrutinizing every development, fueling unprecedented political engagement nationwide. Some seasoned pundits firmly believe this crisis will decisively influence legislative priorities in future congressional sessions. Seasoned commentators stress that growing public sentiment now demands complete transparency and integrity in government decision-making. These informed expert reactions clearly underscore the urgency for immediate legislative resolution and reform amid growing uncertainty. Policy implications of the shutdown extend beyond temporary disruptions, affecting long-term government planning and fiscal discipline. Future challenges clearly include restoring public trust, restructuring outdated budgeting processes, and ensuring truly responsive legislative actions. Lawmakers must skillfully balance immediate crisis management with forward-looking, long-term strategies for sustainable fiscal governance. Reform advocates urge a complete reevaluation of funding mechanisms to prevent future shutdown threats effectively. These challenges will shape legislative priorities and redefine the relationship between government and its citizens. Our detailed analysis reveals a deep political crisis with far-reaching implications for governance and public trust. As we conclude, we remain vigilant and committed to monitoring these critical political developments closely. Thank you for joining our in-depth report. We now sign off, hopeful for a constructive resolution ahead.